Am I the a-hole for laughing at my sister? This happened back in December, but I'm still getting crap for it, so now I'm asking here. My 23 male sister, 24 female, has been dating this guy, 24, for about 10 months, and she shouldn't be. She's constantly testing him to see if he'll cheat or lie, and no matter how many times he passes her tests and says that he, rightfully, doesn't like the tests, she'll still say she can't trust him but also won't break up with him. Our family have told her to stop the tests, and so have some of her friends. But her logic is that if he loves her, then he'll know that she needs to be able to trust him. He went out with some friends and mentioned it so she'd know he wouldn't respond for a while. And my sister, who knew some people who were going to the same bar that night, not many options, told a girl she's kind of friends with that he was single and interested in hooking up to test him. Again. Boyfriend apparently gets hit on, realizing it's a test again, leaves the bar, calls her, and asks if it's a test. And when my sister tells him that it is, he dumps her and says he's either going to hook up with a woman who flirted with him if she's still up for it, or find someone else to hook up with since he can't handle my sister's crazy anymore. My sister is very upset and he hangs up on her. So she goes to our family in the main room, mom, dad, me, to tell us what happens, and says that he cheated and now the relationship is over. We're all obviously upset for her, and then we get the actual story out of her, not just laughed in her face because she lied. She caused a breakup, and it was what everyone warned her would happen if she kept testing him. I was called every name under the sun by my sister, and our parents said that even though she was in the wrong, that I should have been sensitive to how she was feeling and kept my thoughts private. And because I didn't, I'm an a-hole. Am I? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Play a stupid game, win a stupid prize. And quite frankly, testing your partner's loyalty is pretty stupid in my opinion. You either trust them or don't. Yep, I honestly don't know what she was expecting doing that. How in the world she thought he'd just be okay with that over and over again. Some people can just be unbelievably dense. Oh yeah, no surprise there. The sheer volume of stupid is thick here. And yeah, it probably stems from an overwhelming lack of self-esteem. But geez. When everyone, from boyfriend to your mom, says stop doing this is gonna dump you and you continue, it's your own damn fault. I honestly don't know what she was expecting doing that. To break his spirit slowly over time and get away with more and more in the future until he is a shell of a man. And she can do what she wants whilst he pays for everything because he genuinely believes he will never do better than her. Psychological mistreatment is a very real form of domestic abuse. Not a-hole. Your sister is an idiot who lacks the maturity necessary to be in a relationship. Would it have been kinder to keep your thoughts to yourself? Maybe. But holy hell, this chick had it coming. But even though it would have been kinder, she wouldn't have learned her lesson. She would continue the testing game with the next Joe that comes knocking. Sometimes you gotta be harsh for people to face reality. Like you said, she had it coming. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for getting married before my sister after she announced her wedding first? I really feel bad and don't know if I'm the a-hole and how I can make everybody happy. So, my 25 female sister, 27 female, and I were as children always very competitive in sports/grades. But as I got older, I didn't want that anymore. So I changed to a different sport and studied something completely different than her. She then started to get competitive with our personal life, and she was always very passive-aggressive about me having a boyfriend first. Later, I moved together with my boyfriend and she made mean comments about it all the time. After a while, she found her perfect match and things got easier. I knew that she wanted to get married first and be the first one to have children. And it didn't bother me at all because I'm in no hurry. Last Christmas, she announced that she was getting married in 2023, and I was really happy for her. Then at the beginning of this month, my boyfriend, 26, and I got a call from his younger brother, 24. He was informed from his doctor that he has a very aggressive disease. We couldn't believe it, and went to his home to be there for him. My boyfriend was his best man for his brother's wedding. Their dad died when they were little, and they were very close. It meant a lot to him. Last week, my boyfriend asked me if I would marry him. He said that he could understand if it's not that romantic, but he said he wanted to marry while his brother is here, and to have him as his best man. I never cared about an expensive wedding with a lot of people. I'd always wanted to have a nice day with the most important persons in our life. So I could totally get that. I agreed because I love him, and I also know how happy it would make his little brother. But I immediately knew that this would cause stress with my sister. I called her, she knows that my boyfriend's brother is very sick, and told her about the proposal and that it will be only a small wedding this year, with her, my parents/grandparents, and some friends, so she could still have this big wedding first. She got mad and called me jealous, and that I'm using a dying person to get married first. I know that she was overreacting, but I also feel bad because she announced it first, and it means so much to her and I don't want to ruin her moment. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're doing something very sweet for your soon-to-be husband. Your sister needs to grow up and realize that not everything in life is a competition. Thank you, but I don't really know how to stop this competition game. I don't know what to say or do. You don't. You just live your life. Your sister needs to grow up. If she makes passive-aggressive comments, just ignore them and change the subject. Yep, this is the one. OP, if you just do what makes you happy and don't worry about her, you'll be happier than her in the long run. Weddings aren't about competition. They're about people who are in love joining together and inviting the people they love to be there. Your future husband deserves a chance to have his brother there for that. Someday your sister may grow up and understand that life isn't about her winning all the time. But if she doesn't, that's not your problem. She announced it first, but the engagement is longer than a full calendar year. Not even taking the young man's mortality into account, it's an a-hole move to just expect that his sister should put her life on hold because someone called dibs on getting married first. If it's any consolation, she'll probably beat you to divorce court. She can beat the OP for the number of weddings and husbands too. But first, she needs to be the first who gets a divorce. Not stay home. Shut your sister down hard if she ever dares to say something like that to you again. What an awful thing to think, let alone say. She should be ashamed of herself. Your sister owes you a big apology. Right? Let's be real. She probably accused OP of using a dying person as an excuse to do something first, because it's something she would do if she had a chance. So she thinks OP's doing what she would have done. Which doesn't exactly make her that great of a person. Next story. Am I the a-hole for bursting out laughing when my sister-in-law asked to live with us? For the sake of not writing a huge post, I'll just say my sister-in-law have a very tense relationship. She's a very hateful, mean person, constantly takes digs at my weight, tells anyone who will listen that I'm lazy and fat, a bad parent and not good enough for her brother. I let it roll off my shoulders for the most part because, frankly, her opinion of me is pretty much irrelevant. And I have my own opinions on her, but keep it to myself. Not saying anything if I don't have anything nice to say and all that. This weekend, when we were over at his parents' house where she also lives, she sat us down and said she wanted to change from living with her parents, where rent is free and endless childcare is provided by my mother-in-law, and started thinking it might be a good idea to move in with us. I couldn't help it. I immediately started laughing. The entitlement and audacity honestly took me off guard, given the fact that my mutual distaste for her is not a secret, even if I stay cordial to keep the peace. Everyone looked at me in shock, and since the damage was already done, I said, "That's not happening, and you know that." Since she's the person she is, she immediately started her verbal attack, pointing out all of my flaws and classy things like that. Why not behave that way in front of the kids? I gathered up my kids without another word and waited in the car for my husband. I could tell he was kind of mad, and he later told me I should have just let him handle it because he would have obviously said no as well. I would be lying if I said I had regrets. The only thing I wish hadn't happened is exposing the kids to that behavior. I don't know though. Maybe that was an a-hole response, so I'm here to ask. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. God, it was so satisfying to read about somebody reacting like that to a bully. It wasn't the most diplomatic response, but I think it was a long time coming. So satisfying. OP, I want to kiss you on your fat, lazy guts. Your spineless husband, who repeatedly allows his aggressive sister to insult you, that too in front of your children. Is angry because you laughed? So basically, his approach is that his sister is constant demeaning. Insults, personal attacks are okay, but for his wife to laugh in self-defense is infuriating. You might need to stop being nice and take a much sterner stance on disrespect with your husband. Agreed. Sister-in-law shouldn't have so many opportunities to be insulting if husband were doing his part properly. This, not stay home. Might be time to discuss respect with your husband. Good for you, standing up for yourself. Never feel like you are the a-hole for demanding the same respect you give others. I don't know about where you live, but where I live, mistreating someone, especially a parent, in front of children is considered a form of child abuse. Your husband should be standing by you in this. Your reaction wasn't that bad. You didn't react physically when mistreated in front of your children, and I know plenty of people that would have. Good luck in helping your husband realize where his loyalties should lie. Not stay home. Obviously, sister-in-law is, but your husband freaking sucks too. Why is he bringing his wife and kids around this person? If my sister spoke to my spouse like that, even once, she'd be right out of my life. You're not the only one who exposed your kids to that behavior. He did. And frankly, given that he is spineless enough to allow the situation to continue, I wouldn't have trusted him to shut the situation. Not only should you have felt free to speak up, you need to be questioning him about why he's bringing you around his toxic family and allowing this behavior to continue. If there are other posts or anything to go by, the husband is just like his sister in regards to his wife. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole because I charged my son for tickets I got for free? First, the setup. I'm a single mom to 3 boys, 18, 13, and 12. My oldest graduated last year and is currently living at home for free, while he goes to school and work so he can save. Next, the problem. Sometimes for work. I get perks for doing well or just because. The other day, I won tickets to an event that I was on the fence about going to. So I was planning on selling to a coworker who said he'd buy them if I decided not to go. I was leaning towards that option because the extra money would be nice to have a little more to play with in the family fun account. Anyway, before I could sell the tickets, my oldest son saw them and asked me for them so he and his girlfriend could go. I told him a guy from work offered to buy them, but if he wanted them, he could buy them for me instead. My son told me he didn't have the money in his budget for them, but he really wants to go, and if I could just give them to him. I said no, that this is a part of being adult, sometimes you just can't afford things. He pleaded some more and I felt bad, so I said he could buy the tickets by watching his brothers while I went on an overnight with my sister. I don't like leaving the youngest two by themselves overnight, but I'll even throw a $50 gift card so they could get something to eat before. He agreed right away, and I gave him the tickets. I thought it would be a win-win-win. My son goes to the event and they have a great time. When the weekend of my overnight comes, I get snacks and leave pizza money with a note to everyone, one with all the info we discussed along with the name of the hotel. Then I leave before the boys get home from school. I'm at the hotel having a good time when I get a call from my 13-year-old telling me they don't have enough money to order the pizza they want because their older brother took his share of the pizza money to go have dinner with his girlfriend. I give the two my credit card number, hang up and call their brother who doesn't answer. After repeated and answered calls, I get nervous. It made my sister check out and take a cab to my house because we had both been drinking. We end up watching movies and having pizza with the boys all while trying to get a hold of my son. At 1 a.m., he and his girlfriend come home but it's already late, so they go to his room to sleep. Next morning, I'm pissed, so I go to talk to him with a bill to pay me back for the tickets, the gift card, the hotel, the pizza money, and the cab. I also added an inconvenience fee. He said that wasn't fair because I got the tickets and a gift card for free, and I didn't have to come home because he did come home to watch the boys, so they wouldn't have been alone. I told him that wasn't the agreement, and the bill still stands. Am I the a-hole because I did charge him for something I did technically get for free? Not the a-hole. You guys made an agreement on payment and he failed to do it. You said a gift card was for pizza for them to eat, not so he could take his girlfriend out. And you're right, this is part of being an adult. If he couldn't afford it and he didn't want to watch his brothers, then he shouldn't have taken the tickets. You're already doing more than enough letting him live there for free. No, the gift card was for him to use. I left pizza money and he took a portion of that to use for himself. That's so selfish. Wow. Further to this, something I don't see a lot of people pointing out is that OP effectively earned those tickets as a perk for their hard/good work, which then the son disrespected and felt entitled to. Nobody's entitled to anybody else's rewards for hard/good work. Punishment fits the crime and not the a-hole. Plus, he knew why OP was calling and clearly chose to ignore them. Or he needs to be asked what if there was an emergency with the 2 minors left unattended and a phone call was important. Okay, so I was totally going to call you an a-hole until I read a part about him earning the tickets, then going out instead of watching his siblings. Not the a-hole. He reneged on the deal and didn't come home until 1 a.m. Even worse, he took part of the pizza money instead of just using the $50 gift card already given to him. Not the a-hole. I would say a slight a-hole if you straight up charged him. But you were very generous to let him pay you by way of babysitting, and he completely disrespected your agreement. Charging him as punishment was totally reasonable. The son is 18 and living rent-free at home. He was in no way entitled to those tickets. Selling them to a coworker or son would in no way be an a-hole move. Not even a slight a-hole. Although I personally think the compromise with tickets for babysitting was genius. Am I the a-hole for walking out when my sister-in-law stole my pregnancy announcement? Me and my sister-in-law aren't close, but we get along fine. Everyone says she's gorgeous, classy, and chic. She's from a rich family. She's the youngest, and she's spoiled rotten. I'm 35 years old, struggled with fertility for 6 years, but I'm finally pregnant. Everyone thought I won't be able to have kids, and they didn't know about the happy news. I decided to have dinner to announce. I had a few days before leaving town for my new job, and Friday was perfect since the whole family would get together for dinner. Only my brother and his wife knew. We gathered on Friday. I was planning to make the announcement after dinner. I got up from my seat to go get something from the kitchen. Suddenly, sister-in-law saw me standing up. She immediately stood up, took my brother's hand, and smiled at everyone, saying she had something important to tell them. I was confused. I sat back down and my husband kept whispering, asking if she was really going to make the announcement for us. I mean, that was weird. My cousin was recording when my sister-in-law announced that she was pregnant. Me and my husband froze in our seats, shocked. At this point, I had no idea she was pregnant. My brother kept asking her, and she got so dramatic, tearing up and placing his hand on her belly, telling my mom she's gonna be a grandma. Those were like magic words. Mom ran to hug her, already welcoming her first grandbaby, as they call it now officially. My husband and I remained seated. I was so mad it showed. My uncle kept smirking, mocking us for looking jealous since we didn't get up to congratulate my sister-in-law. I just got up and loudly told my sister-in-law what she did was unacceptable, as I made efforts for this dinner. My mom called me disrespectful for behaving like that and not congratulating my sister-in-law. I told her I was intending on announcing my pregnancy after dinner, but mom didn't believe me, saying she couldn't believe I was feeling so jealous of my sister-in-law to the point of lying and saying I'm pregnant. That was it for me. I raised my voice at them, then walked out with my husband. My last chance to make my announcement with my family was ruined. I left town, but my family kept saying I shouldn't have left and ruined sister-in-law's excitement. Mom acted like what I told her about my pregnancy was a lie, and still insisted I call my brother and sister-in-law to apologize for making a scene. Yes, my brother, the only brother I have, and his wife knew that I was pregnant, knew that I was planning on making the announcement on Friday after dinner, and knew how long I waited for this moment. It might sound dramatic, but to have this happen after waiting for years is cruel in my opinion. I'm hurt my mom called me a liar to my face and in front of everybody. My husband said we should clear the air and explain to mom since she didn't know, but I'm not ready to see her right now. Also, there's no response from my brother, not a word from him. He acted like my husband and I weren't even there at dinner. Now for the top comments. Feeling so jealous of my sister-in-law to the point of lying and saying I'm pregnant. Excuse me? Nope, not happening. I no longer have a family after this dinner. Not a day-hole. Same. Like, Opie's mother's reaction is literally unforgivable to me. I'm petty, so I would literally cut contact. Send one newborn photo when the time comes, then block them permanently. Oh, absolutely. And lying and faking a pregnancy? Then enjoy not having a relationship with your fake grandchild. Not a-hole. So sister-in-law waited until you stood up and then quickly cut you off to make her own announcement. That is crappy behavior. And if she knew how long you guys have been trying for a baby, it makes it even crappier. Way to make your wonderful news about yourself. I'm also shocked that your uncle would laugh at you and your mother would assume you are lying. I don't know any background details, but your family sounds pretty toxic. I hope your husband's family is loving and welcoming, because it sounds like your little one will need to be shielded from your family's nonsense. I think that baby announcements should be received with congratulations, but grown adults should know better than to upstage someone else's celebration with their own news. This would be like interrupting an engagement announcement with their own. Utterly inexcusable, rude, and narcissistic. And to enable that behavior, especially knowing the heartache of infertility, means your family doesn't deserve you. I'm guessing this isn't the first time they've favored your brother and been horrible to you. I wish you all the best, and congrats on your baby. The brother didn't know apparently and isn't talking to Opie. This smells fishy. $10 says her pregnancy is fake, and she'll conveniently miscarry in the next few months. Brother knows and won't talk to Opie about it because of guilt. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for celebrating my birthday? Hello everyone. I'm 13 female. I was born in a very poor country. My mom didn't have great prenatal care, so she didn't know she was having twins until my brother and I were born. She had just wanted a boy. My brother died when he was only a few hours old, and my mom got really depressed after that. Because of my brother's death, we never celebrated my birthday, because it was supposed to be a day of family mourning. My family will have small celebrations for me on other days, usually just going out for ice cream or other small things. My mom never joined in or anything no matter when we had them. We live in the United States now, and birthdays are a way bigger deal here than they were back at my old country. We moved here when I was 7, and ever since then, I've always wanted a birthday party with balloons and cake and streamers and everything like that. But my mom has always said no because she says I'm being disrespectful to my brother. Where I live, you're allowed to have parties up to 25 inside, 100 outside. All of my friends were having small parties to celebrate turning into teenagers, and I felt really left out that I wasn't going to get a party. I tried to ask my parents again, and they said no. My mom said no and that I was disrespectful for asking, and my dad told me to listen to my mom. I know that it's not right to be dishonest, but I just really wanted to experience that feeling of having a whole party just for you. So I saved up all of my money from my weekend job and bought a cake and decorations and invitations. My friend's family owns a restaurant and they agreed to let me use the back room. On my birthday, I spent the morning grieving with my parents and then told them I had to go to a friend's house for a school project. I had my birthday party and it was the most amazing time I had ever had in my life. 20 of my friends came and they all got me gifts and sang to me. There was music and dancing and it was amazing. My parents found out though, because one of my friend's parents mentioned to my mom when she saw her at the supermarket the next day what a great time my friend had during my party. My mom came home and freaked out. She called me disrespectful, disgraceful, and basically said that she wished my brother had made it instead of me. I'm not allowed to hang out with my friends or go on any electronics except for schoolwork. I can use the family computer in the living room so she can see what I'm doing. I'm writing this on a computer in the school's library. I don't think my mom would be as mad if I had a party another day and not on my actual birthday. That's the only thing I feel bad about. I could have had it the day after my birthday instead of the day off and spent the day with my family. I just hate spending every single birthday sitting in the dark and not talking or eating while we mourn my brother. I just want 1 year to celebrate. Am I the a-hole? Opie, you are not the a-hole. I can't believe you're only 13 and having to live like this. You are not disrespecting your dead brother. Living your life while he is dead is never disrespectful. What is disrespectful is your mother saying that your own life disrespected your brother. Because she wanted that boy and it died. Maybe it's just me, but this seems like a sort of life lesson she should have learned, but she didn't. Life isn't fair, but you live with what you have. And you appreciate it, because you didn't even have to get that. You are not entitled to anything life gives you. And I think a lot of people forget that, because they want to feel like they have some control in their lives. Celebrate your birthday. Live your life the way you want to. Your mom has created what was supposed to be your happy day into a day of sorrow. Don't let her. It also really irks me that Opie's mother basically said that she wished her brother made it rather than her. That's so messed up. Not the a-hole. Just because your brother died should not mean you are not allowed to live. If anything, they should celebrate your life more. That is in no way disrespectful towards your brother. Not the a-hole. Your parents are using their grief as an excuse to shortchange you. They need a therapist, not a yearly ritual that deprives you of joy for the sake of their late son. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother-in-law out of my wedding when he brought his dog with him? Me and my husband got married a week ago. Not everything went quite as we planned. The reason is my brother-in-law, Jack, 21. He is the youngest in the family. Extremely well cared for and everyone spoils him all the time. For some reason, he doesn't like me. Always been passive-aggressive towards me and made awful remarks about me on several occasions. Jack has a German Shepherd, a really big boy that he adores and takes everywhere. I gotta say, his dog is very active and quite big. He wanted us to include his dog in the wedding invitation we sent him. His mom told me that. I told her that he can't bring his dog, and she acted confused asking why. Then said Jack and his dog always attend events together. And that Jack didn't appreciate how disrespectful I was towards his dog. I have no hate for dogs. I have a Chihuahua that I got 3 years ago. But even she, bless her, cannot be around Jack's moody dog. I insisted no dogs allowed, and it caused some disagreements, but I thought we had them solved. At the wedding, Jack showed up with his dog and wearing a t-shirt with the words Dog Dad on it. I was shocked when I saw them. The saddest dog at the table my family was sitting at. Mother-in-law was smiling widely. His dog was running around ruining everything, causing loud noise and making guests uncomfortable. I swear I'm not exaggerating. Some of my dearest, nearest friends were leaving. I had enough after all people were feeling terrified/uneasy with the dog's acting out. I told Jack he needed to take his dog elsewhere so someone else can stay with him. Jack refused and argued with me, so I told him to leave. Mother-in-law kept calling me unreasonable for telling her son to leave. She said I was the one ruining my own wedding, and I needed to calm down and let Jack enjoy his brother's wedding. My husband just stood there, hands in his pockets, saying he should have eloped if that's how everyone was behaving at the wedding. I put my foot down and asked him to leave. He kept arguing with me, but then took his dog and left. The family were upset, saying I shouldn't have taken away Jack's excitement to share his brother's joy on his big day. His mother was extremely agitated and said I overreacted. That I just made it personal and was acting like a bridezilla kicking an innocent dog and her son out of the wedding. I already made it clear, but Jack was being mean trying to go against my wishes. But still, I'm the one at fault for kicking him out instead of figuring out a solution. The wedding was at my brother's house. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You made it clear from the beginning that the dog was not to attend and your mother-in-law and brother-in-law willfully ignored you. From its behavior, this was clearly not a trained service animal, but a badly trained pet which has no place at a formal event like a wedding, especially when the owner wasn't specifically told to bring the animal. Edit. Also, where was your new husband in all of this, and why was he not backing you up? You better buckle up because it looks like you just married into a really fun family. Opie said he just stood there, saying they should have eloped. I read that, but was trying to make a point to Opie that her new spouse was not standing by her, as a new spouse should. Not the a-hole. If husband just stood there, I'd be going for an annulment. Good luck with that family. You'll need it. Not the a-hole. What is it with people monopolizing someone else's wedding and then blaming the bride/groom for ruining it? This clearly wasn't a service dog, and mother-in-law's crap-eating grin shows that they didn't plan to listen to you from the get-out, and they're quite proud of their stupid selves. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for excluding my mom from baby shower until she sincerely apologizes to my husband for how she's been about him not being present at our last birth? My daughter was born over a year and a half ago. A couple of months before I was due, my husband experienced something very traumatic that I'd rather not say here. Soon after, he was experiencing some severe panic attacks that sometimes came out of nowhere, but usually triggered by any sort of stress. He was so worried about how he'd be during our daughter's birth, and I decided maybe it was better if he wasn't present. We were still waiting for him to get approval for a therapist, and his panic attacks would get really bad. Being in the delivery room didn't feel like the best choice. My husband agreed. He felt so awful about it, but I knew this wasn't his fault. My sister was there instead, and he stayed in the waiting room with his family, who helped him when his anxiety would spike. The delivery went well, and my husband finally got the help he desperately needed. My mom was the only one who seemed to have a problem with the fact that he wasn't with me doing his job as a husband/father by supporting me. She knew about the anxiety problem, why it was happening, and why he hadn't been able to get help yet. But she felt like he should have sucked it up and been there for me. I put my foot down a few times when she went directly to him and made him feel bad for failing his first task as a father. She'd apologize. My husband would forgive her and decide to give her another chance. We didn't see much of anyone after because of COVID. And then we were busy with my daughter, so didn't talk to her much either. We found out months ago we're pregnant with our second child, and my husband is ecstatic. I'm too. We were talking to my parents on Zoom, and my mom asked if he's actually gonna be there this time, or is he gonna flip out again and decide to miss the birth of his baby. My husband got silent afterwards, and he was very serious. That's a sore subject for him because he still feels extremely guilty, despite being such a caring and devoted father to our girl. I got so mad at my mom. This time she doesn't want to apologize because it was just a simple, valid question, but it's the way that she said it. He manages his anxiety very well thanks to his lovely therapist, and hasn't suffered an episode like that in a long time, even in very stressful situations. We've had a few of those last year. She knows all this, so I know her question was just to make a jab at him. I've been refusing all contact, and said she's not welcome to my baby shower until she sincerely apologizes to him. Because she refused, we haven't talked at all and she's still uninvited. Some are not happy we're taking this route. My husband is on the same boat. They feel she has a right to be concerned for me, and I shouldn't be keeping her from our family. It's kind of been wearing me down, so I'd like to know what others might think about this. Not Dayhall. She's lucky you're even giving her a chance to make good. Can I just say your husband is such a noble man? Giving up being in the delivery room for the birth of his child for the good of everyone at the time is such an honorable thing to do. It must have been one of the hardest decisions to make. Hats off to this man. It killed him, honestly. This was our first child, and he was so excited about being there to witness her birth. What happened to him wasn't his fault. Sometimes he acts like it was. So this was very hard on him that he couldn't be there because of the attacks. This time, we know it's gonna be different. Doing what he did to allow his child's birth to be as smooth and calm as possible is incredibly selfless and clearly the act of an amazing husband and father. From one father to another, this man has my utmost respect. Also, please pass this pro tip to him. Make sure to give her your non-dominant hand to squeeze, pal. Thank me later. Not Dayhall. If this is genuine concern for you, she's expressing it in a rude, cruel, and paternalistic way. You're an adult. You've picked your partner. You've talked this issue through. You let her know multiple times that you're fine with it. By this point, she has to respect that, even if she disagrees. I'm not even sure this is protectiveness, because if it were that, this would be a very unproductive way to try to help. Maybe she's trying to bully him into going out of a concern for you, but I don't see in what world would that solve more problems in your marriage than it would create. Especially given that he's going this time, and that she already knows it. It's just completely unnecessary. So to me, it honestly reads more as unnecessary, cruel, and abusive remarks than mama bear mode. That's the way I see it too. My husband has learned healthy ways to cope with his trauma. He manages his anxiety well, so obviously he's going to be there this time. It was just so unnecessary to bring this up again. Am I the a-hole for walking out the surprise birthday party my family threw for me? I, 26 female, have been married to my wheelchair-bound husband Adam for 2 years now. His disability was a result of a major car accident shortly after we got back from our honeymoon. His injuries were too severe and no one thought he was going to get better. My life certainly changed, because now I have tons of responsibilities, but I'm happy and blessed to still have him in my life. Before the accident, my family used to invite Adam to events and dinners and visit all the time, but not anymore. They don't see him much but help out with our financial struggles. I've been told that being a caregiver is huge and unfair since I'm young. My mom even tried to set me up with a guy named James, her friend's son, by inviting me to lunch with him or giving him my number/social media account. I told her it won't work. I love Adam and will care for him for the rest of my life if I had to. So I put space between me and my family, and said unless they stop bringing James, who was disrespectful towards Adam, around me, I won't visit them. Mom apologized, and I haven't seen James in months, which was a relief. My birthday was days ago, and I had to work that day but planned to celebrate with Adam in the evening. But at 3 p.m., I got a phone call from Mom asking me to stop by once I get off work. I arrived at Mom's house to find my entire family there setting up a surprise birthday party. I was thrilled, as I didn't think they'd even pay for a party after already helping me with money. Then I asked if I could go bring Adam so we could celebrate together. But they stalled, saying my brother will bring him. And that's when the door rang and there was James. I was confused. I asked what he was doing there, and Mom said I should relax as she invited him and his mom. I remained calm and took the gift James brought after so much hesitation. I opened it and there was some jewelry piece. Then I made a snide comment asking if Adam was ever able to afford such piece of jewelry. I just closed the box and gave it back. They insisted I take it, but I grabbed my bag and said I was leaving. Mom said I should stay because the family, sisters, brother, and nephew came together to do this for me. I told her it was rude of her to catch off guard and invite James to the party. She and Dad followed after I walked out asking me to return, but I just kept walking. Afterwards, Mom and Aunt left messages, saying it was disrespectful to walk out like that after the efforts they made to celebrate my birthday. They said I had plenty of time to celebrate with my husband, and I shouldn't have made a scene and embarrassed them in front of their friends. They said I screwed up and overreacted by being hostile towards those who were trying to be nice and take my mind off the stress. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Haven't told Adam about it, so he wouldn't be burdened with family issues. He's still emotionally recovering, and I'm being careful about the stuff that would upset him. I found him asleep when I got home. He usually sleeps as early as 5 p.m. We didn't have a celebration, but talked in the morning. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The James stuff goes far beyond trying to be nice. That's some evil crap right there. It's ironic because you had literally just married your husband. In the vows, there's always that in sickness and in health stuff, and they want you to straight up abandon your husband the second he needs you? What if the situation was reversed and she was in the wheelchair? Would they not expect Adam to help as her husband? I hope his family sucks. Not the a-hole, but at this point, no contact or low contact because they will keep trying, and James is weird. The problem is it sounds like Opie and Adam are dependent on her family financially. Opie, I hope you and hubby have filed for federal disability payments. I know it can be a pain in the butt and take forever, but this is the type of situation they exist for. Not the a-hole. Not even a teeny tiny little bit. But curiosity has me wondering, did you find out if your brother was actually going to get your husband? The answer has no sway in my ruling. I'm just curious. No, my brother never left to go get Adam. This just makes you even more not the a-hole. You're a saint. Your family's absolutely freaking abhorrent. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for canceling my son's birthday party upon discovering that he ruined his stepbrother's deceased brother's hoodie? It's a complex situation, but I'll do my best to explain. I'm male 45, have a bio son Leo 16 from my previous relationship. I married a stepmom who is a mother of 2 boys, Connor, 20 deceased, and Derek, 12. I've never had the pleasure to meet Connor, who tragically passed away from a motorcycle accident. Derek was so devastated by this loss, and although it's been years, he's still pretty much grieving. I've seen tons of pictures and videos of Connor, and made efforts to get to know who he was as a way to share Derek's grief and be there for him to lend an ear and a comforting shoulder. It's safe to say that Derek and I grew a strong bond in no time, but my son Leo isn't close to Derek. Understandable, because not all siblings and step-siblings are the same. Leo and Derek are different in everything, which isn't a bad thing. But Leo calls himself the brutally honest type and makes insensitive comments about Derek most of the time, which tend to be under the guise of advice. Derek never complained, so I had to step in and tell Leo to stop being insensitive towards his stepbrother, especially with everything regarding Connor and his memory. Leo would say, "Okay, I get it, and I won't do it again." Then days ago, Leo wanted to hang out with my friends and asked Derek if he wanted to join. Derek agreed and put on Connor's hoodie before going out. Leo commented on the hoodie and called it ugly and asked him to put on something else, but Derek insisted on wearing it or not go. So Leo dropped it. Hours later, Derek came home crying with his hoodie in his hand. He said Leo and friends cut it into pieces while he was in the bathroom after they convinced him to take it off. I was furious. He asked Leo and he said it was his friend's idea, then said he had to do it since Derek wears it everywhere and it looked old and embarrassing. I reminded him who this hoodie belonged to, and he said, so what? Maybe this will help him move on in life. I then told him his birthday was cancelled and his friends aren't welcome anymore. He pitched a fit, saying his birthday was a right, not a privilege, and I can't cancel it. He had my ex criticize my decision and wanted to host his birthday party, but I refused because he is grounded, so no party anywhere. She and her family then called me awful and ridiculous, and asked me to think how Leo will hate me for this, but I insisted he needed punishment for putting his stepbrother through this. Note, the hoodie belonged to Connor when he was younger, and Derek kept it. Not day-haul. That's a cruel, cruel thing to do. Edit. Just ready ages. At 16, your son did that to a bereaved 12-year-old. Perhaps seek therapy for him? If this story is true, there was something really wrong with a 16-year-old son. His birthday was a right, not a privilege. That may be one of the most entitled things I've ever heard. He did something absolutely terrible, and that hoodie can't be replaced. I cannot believe the complete lack of empathy that he displayed with his actions. What he did to Derek was cruel. He absolutely deserves to have his birthday celebration cancelled. Not day-haul, and good on you for actually disciplining him even though he's your bio son. For context, there are quite a few AITA posts where a parent will choose their bio child over their stepchild, even when they're clearly in the wrong. He is absolutely right that the birthday is a right. He can have his birthday. Nobody can stop him from turning 17. However, celebrating it is a privilege and not a right. As cruel as he was, he deserves the right to turn 17 without any fanfare. Not day-haul. Not day-haul. You're a calmer man than me. If my 16-year-old son did that, I would have lost my mind. What he and his friends did was freaking horrific, and they need to be shown how terrible it was. Canceling of his birthday is a good start, and some serious soul-searching is also in order. Bravo to you for not allowing your ex to interject and throw him a party anyway. We did have a loud argument, trust me, and I lost my temper. But Leo is the type that talks back, so he's the one yelling most of the time. The outcome is the same. I still cancelled his birthday because of what he did, and also because his friends aren't welcome to my house for what they did as well. I'd be talking to the parents of the other kids as well. All of these kids need their behinds handed to them stat. I gotta say, some of those kids' parents are enablers. They see nothing wrong with their kids' behaviors, but make no effort to even take time of their day to have a civil discussion about whatever issues I'm dealing with as a result of their kids' behaviors. It is how it is, because Leo tends to be protective of his friends despite them being bad influence. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my sister leave my house after her joke about my son's mom leaving again? My son Jack is going to be 2 soon. His mom Annie has a complicated history in how this all happened. Her husband passed away, and 3 months after that we slept together. We were barely friends at the time, so I didn't know until after our first night together that she'd recently become a widow. But she told me she was really lonely, and just enjoyed that physical connection. So for about 8 months that's how it was, though we didn't see each other too often. Then we found out she was pregnant. She wanted to go through with the pregnancy, and I fully supported her if that was what she wanted. The thing was, she still had a lot of grief. And when my son was born, it was hard for her to connect with him. She said she felt guilty having a baby with another man after losing her husband. By the time Jack was 4 months, she hadn't gotten any better, and her mental health completely deteriorated. I took over with him full-time after this, since she wasn't in the best place to be a mother. Annie still visited a few days out of the week for a short period, but I was doing most of childcare while she went to therapy. Then she was in the hospital for a while, and she couldn't come over much during COVID except for video chats, so she's essentially become a stranger to him. 3 months ago, she started coming around more after not seeing him for a while. She's on antidepressants, and therapy has helped her a lot. Now she's more set on being a mom, and we're slowly reintroducing him to her. My sister hasn't been happy about this. I know she's upset on my behalf as I struggled a bit as a single parent. She knows the situation that happened with her, but still thinks she shouldn't be allowed back into Jack's life after abandoning him. And yeah, I get her feelings. But since Annie's in a better place mentally, then I want to give a shot at Jack having a mom around. I still have my guard up, obviously. and we're taking it one day at a time. But I see how different she is with him now. Well, my sister hasn't stopped making comments no matter how many times I've told her to knock it off. She dropped by unannounced when Annie was here, and was very openly hostile right in front of Jack. Annie offered to leave, and then my sister jokes, "Make sure you come back this time." I told her to leave, and not come back until she can act right with the mother of my child. My sister is offended that I'm taking her side by kicking her out of my house, since she's only angry on my behalf and it was a joke she made. That's why she thinks I'm an a-hole. But for me, I was thinking I'd rather get her out ASAP before saying something else in front of my son. Was I being an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. You've repeatedly set boundaries with your sister regarding how she treats Annie. Actions have consequences. And this is all affecting, or will eventually affect, the kid. Having his mom be treated poorly by his aunt is not in his best interests. Not an a-hole for a number of reasons. 1. Your child will do best in life if he has a healthy mother. You've done a great job of making this happen for him. 2. Her mother is struggling with her mental health. I doubt your sister would be so judgmental if she had to go away and get treatment for cancer. Her mental health isn't her fault, but it is her responsibility, and it sounds like she has taken responsibility for it and gotten help, which is great. 3. If your sister really cared about her nephew and you, she'd keep her comments to herself. They don't help anyone. It doesn't matter if she's saying them on your behalf. They aren't constructive, like at all. You're a good person, Opie, and a great father. Your kid is lucky to have you, and so is his mom. Keep up the good work. There's so much. Annie didn't abandon her son. She didn't leave because she was fed up with being a mom. She had to go away to become healthier. She wasn't being irresponsible. If anything, she was doing the responsible thing of becoming better so she could be a better mom. Not an a-hole. She didn't abandon him. She realized she couldn't be his mother with the way she was feeling mentally and emotionally, and she did her best to get better. You're an awesome person for having her back and understanding. Also for being such a good dad. Your sister is an a-hole for making jokes when she knows you're okay with Annie being around him. I wish you the best, dude. I guess it's different when you're the one who witnessed everything that happened instead of just being told about it. Me personally, I saw how much Annie struggled, so I want things to be better now so they could have a healthy relationship. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for sitting mother-in-law and father-in-law down and telling them we will not support them in their old age, and they can't live with us? My husband's parents have been divorced for 15 years, and both remarried within a year or two of splitting. Father-in-law and his wife are not doing well financially. He has a gambling problem, while she has a shopping problem, and they live way beyond their means. I try to mind my own business, but my husband is the only child, and I worry that they think we are going to provide in their old age. Mother-in-law on the other doesn't work. She is married to a man who works in commercial real estate and is very successful. He owns a share of the firm, is semi-retired, and they live very well. We aren't close to mother-in-law. We are civil when we see her a couple times a year, but there isn't much of a relationship. So we decided that we had to talk to father-in-law about his retirement plans in the future. We want him to have fair warning and understand that we are not going to be helping. We decided to talk to mother-in-law as well. Not that she expects anything, but to make it less embarrassing for father-in-law to be fair. We asked them both to lunch, and told them that they will never be welcome to live with us, and that we are not going to fund them in their old age, so save accordingly. Father-in-law seemed embarrassed, but said he understood. But mother-in-law began to get angry, and wanted to know why she was there. I explained we were just being upfront, but she kept demanding to know if she had ever asked us for anything. She said we wasted her time. We haven't seen each other since Christmas, and why would she even want to live with people she sees 2 or 3 times a year? She then said she doesn't even like us, which seemed kind of dramatic, then stormed off. I am somewhat friendly with mother-in-law's stepdaughter, and I heard from her that mother-in-law's husband is pissed. He is pretty old-fashioned about gender roles and the man providing, and I guess he took it as a huge insult. Mother-in-law is apparently offended because she thinks I lumped her in with her ex. I think everyone's just being crazy dramatic. You're the a-hole. You took someone out to dinner who never asked to live with you, and who you barely see, just to tell them they were not welcome to live with you? And you're going to sit there and pretend you're completely shocked that they might take offense. Also, you were wasting her time. Waste someone's time to set boundaries that were never needed, then shocked Pikachu face when they're offended. Hey, I just wanted to take you out to dinner to let you know that if you end up needing a kidney transplant and I'm a match, you can't have mine. We organized the special dinner to make an announcement. We will not be helping to plan your funeral or even be in attendance. What, you thought you were getting grandbabies? Haha, no. You're the a-hole. You insulted your mother-in-law just to make her ex-husband more comfortable? Also, you insulted your father-in-law by having a very awkward conversation in front of his ex. Also, why did you even need to be there? Why couldn't your husband talk to his parents alone? How did you think this was a good idea? You're the a-hole. You were incredibly rude to your mother-in-law, and her reaction was totally justified. No wonder she doesn't like you. I just saw this, and I already don't like Opie. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother the reality of getting married young? I'll keep it short. My brother is 19, as is his girlfriend. The two are currently engaged. She wants a quick wedding, and he asked me for advice. I, 30 female, got married at 18. My husband and I are still together, so I assumed my brother thought we were perfect to ask. My brother asked me what getting married so young was like, as he assumed everything would be exactly the same as it is now except he'd be married. I told him no, everything changes. I basically told him that being married no matter your age is hard, and even more so when you're young. Every decision you make isn't just about you, but also your spouse. You combine more things, such as money, and you sacrifice a lot so you can reach a comfortable compromise. I said, yeah, there are a lot of positives, but being married is a lot different than being engaged or just dating. I said I needed to be prepared as it was a life commitment, and to only do it if you really think you can make it work. I guess he wasn't expecting my brutal honesty, as all of a sudden, the idea of him and his fiancée getting married was shut down by him. Now, I've got my parents and her family telling me how much of an a-hole I am, because I'm preventing them from doing what they want to do. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. He asked and you delivered. Getting married at that age is something that shouldn't be rushed into, and it's good you told him straight. It sounds like if that's the parents' reaction, they expected your brother and his girlfriend to rush into a marriage he clearly doesn't want or isn't ready for. Yeah, I'm really wondering why the parents are so keen for their kids to be married so young. Definitely not an a-hole. You were honest and gave balanced advice. It sounds like he had a romanticized idea of marriage and you gave him some much-needed clarity. Not an a-hole. He doesn't want to get married so young and is looking for confirmation. At least that's what I read from his reaction. How has he treated you since? He has been completely fine. He hasn't really been talking about it though. Not an a-hole. Anyone who can be talked out of marriage in a couple of conversations about the realities of commitment and responsibility should not be getting married. Yeah, I was going to say, what Opie wrote in the post isn't even bad. If they're engaged, ideally they should already be thinking of themselves as a unit and making decisions for the good of both people. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he needs to accept the fact he's poor? I'm 8 years older than my brother, who's in his second year of university. I was lucky enough to have my parents be in a position to pay for everything, as well as send me money weekly. This meant I graduated with zero debt and was able to travel. I didn't have to work, but I did because I enjoyed bartending work. I'm aware of just how lucky I was. I'm not denying it. However, since I've finished uni, my parents' fortunes have taken a turn for the worse. Due to my father's illness and a variety of other factors, my parents are unable to finance quite the same lifestyle for my brother as they were for me. Now, to be clear, it's not as if he's on the breadline. In the UK, university is £9,250 a year, which is paid for by the government and repaid after graduation, and only on what you earn over £21,000 a year like a graduate tax. He also has a maintenance loan of around £6,000, often used for day-to-day expenses, which is repaid in the same way. He's at uni for roughly 27 weeks a year, so that amounts to £220 a week. There's also his rent, but I pay that and he won't need to repay me. With all this said, my brother keeps complaining how he has no money and that he can't do anything. He complains to our parents, who are stretched thin, so won't be able to help and causes them stress. He complains to me, asking me to send him money, despite the fact I pay his rent and phone bill. Eventually, I became so irritated by his incessant complaining that I warned him that if he were to ever complain to my parents, I'd cut him off. I told him £200 a week was more than enough to live on, and if he was adamant about not being able, or wanting, to work, he'd have to accept being poor and set his expectations low. He didn't take this well and accused me of not being able to understand his position, as I was able to do pretty much what I wanted at uni, and how it isn't fair how he can't do the same. I said, well, it might not be fair, it is how it is, and he had to move on. Now for the top comments. Not a day haul. Rent is typically the biggest monthly cost, and he doesn't have to pay it. And he doesn't have to pay for his phone, so basically he has £200 a week to spend on food and necessities. That's plenty. If it's not, he can get a job and live within his means. Not a day haul. I'm a grown adult supporting a family and don't spend the equivalent of $275 on food and random stuff every week. That's nearly a full-time minimum wage job in the US. $275 times 52 weeks is equal to $14,300 divided by 7.5 per hour. Federal minimum wage is equal to 1,972 hours. Full-time is 2,080. I'm not saying anyone should ever try to live in US minimum wage because our economy is literally a joke. But the point is, $275 a week is dang good money for an unemployed college student. Not a day haul. £200 a week? I lived off £3,000 a month after rent, and I felt rich in comparison to a lot of my friends. It's unfortunate that he hasn't been able to have the same experience as you, but in comparison to most people at university, he is very wealthy. Mate, I thought this exactly. My student loan left me with £75 after rent, and I got a job to up my amount to £350 a month. I was far from the most strapped for cash. Not a day haul. Your brother may have a worse experience than you did, but it doesn't give him the right to complain and demand so much from you when your whole family's already doing their best. You didn't mention anything about him working or anything, so I won't assume, but maybe he should consider trying to give his fair share of labor. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not apologizing for yelling at my aunt who made me homeless? I'm female 23 and my boyfriend is 24. February of last year, when universities closed, I found myself in my hometown without anywhere to live. Was in a dorm as a resident assistant. My boyfriend's lease was up, and he was having trouble finding a place. My parents don't have room, so we were scrambling to find a place. I had lost my income, and we were on a really tight budget. We almost drove to my boyfriend's hometown, but being the only medically literate person in the family, I didn't want to leave my grandparents without help in case anyone got sick. My grandparents have a cabin in the next town, and realizing that we were in a bind, Grandma offered it to us. My boyfriend and I got COVID jobs, and I continued my online medical studies. Boyfriend put in a ton of hours for building the deck, repairing parts of the dirt road, and trimming trees. Mid-May, my aunt calls me and asks if she can bring 4 house guests up for 2 weeks. I explained that while we wouldn't turn her away, it was not the best timing, and we didn't have 4 beds. I suggested they could come up for a shorter time or stay nearby. She said okay, and she would think of a solution. Hours later, my grandfather calls and says we have 2 weeks to get the F out of my house, permanently. I explained that we would be forced to quit our jobs and live in my van. He said he was under no obligation to honor our agreement from February. My dad called to make my case, but my aunt insisted that she already purchased plane tickets and needed a vacation. She also said that she was going to take my grandparents to the cabin with her to give my parents a break from taking care of them. They need hands-on care for mobility, GRAM, and dementia, GRAMP. 2 weeks later, we were back in the van. Later, Auntie called asking me to drive up and get my cousin so she could go to lunch. When I arrived, my grandpa looked bruised, and it turned out that while my aunt was visiting friends the day before, he had fallen off a chair changing a light bulb. He had clearly torn something rotator cuff related in his shoulder. As I put together what had happened, I got upset. We went aside, and I yelled at my aunt for being negligent in elder care, called her greedy for making 2 people homeless/jobless so she could go on vacation. I told her that she had to cancel her plans and take Grandpa to the emergency room. They ended up staying only 3 days before going back to town. I haven't spoken to my aunt since. I have apologized for sharp words to my grandma. A week ago, my grandma called saying I better call and apologize to my aunt, that I know the value of having people on my side, which seemed like Auntie had been complaining. When asked directly, my grandma said I was being immature. I called my aunt and said if she wanted to mend bridges, to leave my grandma out of it. I didn't apologize. My aunt says they didn't do anything illegal, and I think they were all a-holes. Not a-hole. They sound awful. All of them. I hope your situation gets better soon. Thank you. We were able to find a place just as it started snowing. I was going to add that, but was pushing up against the word limit. I'm glad about that. Did you ever figure out what your aunt told your grandfather to get him to kick you out like that? I was surprised that didn't come up in your account, and I wonder if part of the reason some of your family's unsupportive of you here is that some nasty remnants of your aunt's lies are floating around in the family, getting them to interpret your actions negatively. I never found out, beyond that she was sad on coming on vacation. I suspect that she went on about how they were enabling us to be freeloaders, or maybe even that we posed a risk due to our COVID patient care jobs. Not day-hole. I'm sorry you have such horrible relatives. If Gram calls again, I'd straight up ask her how she feels making you homeless. Is her daughter's vacation more important than a granddaughter having a place to live? Yes, well, good luck then, Gram. Have a nice life. Did go no contact with them. Also r/just no family. Yep, I can't believe the entitlement of the aunt. Or that the grandparents would make their own grandchild homeless to accommodate aunt's freaking vacation. Not a day-hole, but please stop letting your family treat you horribly. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to kick my sister-in-law and her boyfriend to the curb when they have nowhere to go? Long story short, my 23 female, sister-in-law 20 female, and her boyfriend 20 male have come to live with us because they got kicked out of the boyfriend's parents' house and then my in-laws' house. My in-laws struggle with substance abuse, and my husband is my sister-in-law's only sibling. I told them they could come stay with us, as long as they got jobs and sister-in-law got her GED, and they cleaned up after themselves. We don't charge them any rent, and they were only supposed to pitch in like $200 a month for groceries when they started working. We have 2 kids, and my husband is the only one working currently. They have been here since the end of October, and only one of them is working. Altogether, I'd say they've worked maybe 3 weeks, and they're on workplace number 4. It's been 3 months. They argue with us when we tell them to do things, complain that the Wi-Fi doesn't reach their bedroom so it makes playing video games hard, refuse to pay for any of the groceries or household supplies they use. They have enough money to buy booze and vape pods, but not enough to pay their car insurance, which led them getting a court date when they got pulled over. Guess who got to pay for their car insurance? Us. This is literally wrecking my marriage because I'm so angry all the time from these freaking adult moochers living in my house. We have offered to pay for a deposit and first month's rent on an apartment for them, but they don't want that. I've got to be able to keep a job for longer than a week first. Direct quote from my sister-in-law. Not to mention, she's been talking about having a baby. I've tried nicely talking to them. I've tried being hard on them too, and nothing is working. I'm done, and I want them out. Would I be the a-hole if I told them they can either pay for half of an apartment, and we can pay the other half by April 1st, or they can find somewhere to go? Either way, they're getting the hell out of our house, even if it's to the streets. Now for the top comments. Not a a-hole. You've offered 2 months of free rent for their own apartment. They don't want to work. Kick them to the curb because then it'll be, would I be the a-hole if I kick my pregnant sister-in-law and husband to the curb? I still remember that AITA about some family member/relative who moved in with their significant other and coincidentally, after being asked to move out after overstaying their welcome, announced they were pregnant and acting like they were going to be staying after all. Not the a-hole. Your offer is much more reasonable than the offer I would make them. When even their parents won't let them freeload anymore, it sure as hell doesn't make it your problem. Would I be the a-hole if I told them they can either pay for half of an apartment and we can pay the other half by April 1st? What is wrong with tomorrow, or the other day after that? Why are you waiting until April 1st, Opie? You said yourself that it's ruining your marriage. You really think you have another month and a half to spare? Tell them to get the hell off and save your marriage. Not an a-hole. Not today, Ho. It's time to sit down with your husband and draw your boundaries. Your sister-in-law is ruining your family dynamic and mental health, and husband needs to step up and put you and your children first. Give them a 30-day eviction and call it a day. You don't owe them rent or a deposit. The only people you owe anything to are your young children who need every bit of your family's limited resources. Let the two adults figure their own lives. Every dollar you waste on sister-in-law is money that could go towards your children's or your savings/retirement. I get your husband feels obligated to her because of their shared trauma from terrible parents, but at the end of the day, you and your children need to be the number one priority. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.